Welcome to the Popcorntalk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
From the Popcorn Talk Network, the #1 online broadcast network for movie talk, this is the Cosplay Coach. Costume breakdowns and tips and tricks to create your own. And now, the coach herself, Meredith Placko.
Oh my God! Hi everyone! Welcome to episode 1 of the Cosplay Coach. I am super excited. I also have had a lot of caffeine today. I want to welcome all of you for joining in for this inaugural episode where we are going to talk about Cinderella. Now make sure before we get into things, I want everyone to go to iTunes, subscribe, rate, hit up those like buttons on YouTube. And if you want, you can join a conversation with us live on chat. We've got Steven in the booth. He'll be moderating all great things. And I want to introduce my amazing guest for today's episode, Anastasia Washginton.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here for the first episode. Yay.
I know. So tell us a little bit about yourself in costuming and as a cosplayer.
I have been costuming for quite a while, since I guess it's been like, I'm going to age myself here, maybe 15 years.
Yeah,
I've been
same here, so good girl.
And I love cosplaying because I get to wear my own stuff, and you know, costuming is fun, and when you're costuming a production that you're actually in, it's a little bit exhausting, but when you costume a cosplay, it's a little bit easier to manage.
And it's really personal. I mean, yeah. you put together or make or create or buy all the elements, and you get to wear it and go to a convention, have fun.
Yeah, and it's something you're super into. It's something you're super geeky about, and that makes it just so much better.
Yeah, I know, it's true. I'm, like Anastasia, I've been cosplaying since 1999. I was 18, so do the math yourself there, folks. Been kind of at this for a while, but I fell into it as a talk show host, oddly enough, in radio. We were covering a con in Orlando called MegaCon, and my co-hosts were like, "Hey, you should dress up," and I'm like, what? And then I'm like, okay, yeah. So I ended up making Dagger / Princess Garnet from Final Fantasy IX.
Wow.
And it was like, of course I had to pick like a tight thing for my first thing. And I remember going home for the holidays. It was in college, obviously. And I was like, hey, Mom, can you help me make this? Because Mom's an amazing seamstress. And she says, honey, Halloween was a couple months ago.
You're like, this isn't for Halloween, Mom.
Yeah, and hey, 15 years later, she still supports me and actually helps me out when I'm like, Mom, what should I do? But so I fell into costuming through that. I actually, at one point, quit my radio job to go and get a degree in fashion design and marketing.
That's awesome.
It is. It was a lot of fun, and then I realized I hated sewing for other people, so I went back into journalism.
We were talking about this. It's funny. I didn't realize I could combine them. I've been an actor and a costumer, and I never really knew I could combine them all and be happy. Yeah. And I think cosplay is really that spot.
It really is. And for those of you who are tuning in and kind of like, what is this cosplay thing? You might have heard about it on like the sci-fi show or seen people dressed up in conventions. It comes from the Japanese term costume play. And some people take that as a literal role playing, acting out the character. Here stateside, it's a little bit more, we like to dress up and embody our favorite characters. And this could be, in I'm gonna call you Anna, by the way, because that's my nickname too for years. In our cases, we tend to make a lot of our own stuff, but it's not just about making, it's about finding. Maybe you're not really skilled and you can commission people, because there are people all throughout the world that make costumes, specific nerdy costumes as a living.
It's a huge industry now. It's huge.
It really
and bounding itself is becoming a huge
and that's
industry.
Something you're doing yourself.
Yes.
Can you explain a bit about what bounding is?
Bounding came from Disneyland really not allowing adults to dress up, and for good reasons. So there's little ways that you can dress up, which is bounding, which is dressing in colors that inspire your character. I'm currently kind of doing a Dapper Day version of Wolverine, which is another day of bounding, which is just a fancy dressing up of your favorite characters, and it's really fun.
It is. It's super fun, and it's like, as nerd culture grows, we have so many ways that we can express our fandoms and our passions, and by bounding or cosplaying, it's all those. So that's us. A little bit about Cosplay Coach itself. This is not your typical show for Popcorn Talk Network. It's gonna be a multifaceted show. What we're going to do is we're going to celebrate today Cinderella and the costumes of designer Sandy Powell. We're going to kind of go through some of the processes that she did when creating these costumes, talk about the characters and costumes we see on screen, and then I've got a treat for you. A little surprise, but we'll save that for later.
Quite a treat.
It's something I've been magicking up. So we want to get right into things and open up with the amazing Sandy Powell. She is a phenomenal influence in a lot of historic costuming. She's been doing period pieces for, most of her body of work. Some of the bigger ones she's worked on have been the Young Victoria, the Other Boleyn Girl, and Shakespeare in Love.
Which I loved.
It was phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, I was so obsessed with that movie.
I mean, the costumes. Now, one thing about these movies, including Cinderella, while they're period pieces, a lot of the costumes in them are not period accurate.
True, and I think that's okay because I feel like that gives her creativity a chance to shine.
Mm-hmm.
Not that many people would be like, well, that's 1700s and 1800. It doesn't. Yeah, she really, because
she really takes the period pieces and draws upon them for inspiration, and then creates a fantastical garment. Because when you're, especially with a film like Cinderella, you're not, it's not just going to be like the romantic area, the Rococo area, the antebellum area. It's a fantasy film, and you kind of want to draw from all the big and amazing things. And I feel like just, when she really got to let loose, when Kenneth Branagh came to her and was like, hey, I really want your vision for this, go at it, have fun, she really
that's awesome.
got to shine. Yeah, it's amazing.
That makes me love him even more.
I know. I mean, those two together really, I know she tends to work, Powell tends to work a lot with Scorsese, but I'd like to see her with Branagh, what they can concoct more.
Let's make this a thing, you guys.
I know. Let's ship it. Another great thing about Sandy, she's been nominated 10 times for the Academy Award in Costume Design, and she's won for Shakespeare in Love, The Aviator, and the Young Victoria. So absolutely, just a dream right there.
And I'm pretty sure she'll get
at least a nod
for this.
Yeah. No, and when it came to Cinderella, Sandy really wanted to draw inspiration from the original film. But it's funny, I was reading an interview with her where she watched it before she started doing her designs, and she was like, yeah, I guess some of the influence seeped in. I'm like, yeah, you think?
Like, it has to, a little bit. I mean, we grow up watching these shows, and yeah, we want to interpret things our way, but yeah, it's still our basis for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's some very iconic costumes within the animated film. Now, as a designer, I'm assuming you've, especially working in stage, you've had to translate scripts and all other productions into costume designs of your own. What's some of that process that you think about when you don't want to necessarily copy, but you have to stay within an iconic realm?
I think it has a lot to do with shape. Mm-hmm. There are certain classic shapes in certain characters that just are ideal. Yeah. And playing with that shape and playing with colors off of that's an awesome way to do that. But yet still, people want to see Cinderella in blue, and they want to see her in a big ball gown. There's not much you can mess with that, but I feel like she upgraded it.
She did.
I've like, the frame is gorgeous, the details, and that's the other thing, getting down to the details. And if you can, stage is a little more cut and dry, but like film, you can get really down to those little tiny details and play around with that you cannot on stage.
It was just
it's rough and dirty there.
I've worn a couple stage costumes before. Dirty is definitely the word I would use.
I've sewn people going onto stage.
And that's another thing too, when you're thinking about making costumes, you're making them for screen, for stage, for photo shoots. Everything is a little different. But we'll get into that a little bit later on the cosplay section. Amazing thing that Sandy said in one of the interviews was about the mixing up of periods. It was deliberate and was rather liberating to not have to stick rigidly to one style. She does say the main look of the film is 20th century and 1940s and 50s and even the early 1800s when you see the Fairy Godmother gown, because there's definitely a very Rococo shape to that.
But I think that's also fun to play around with the people that you have. Like she knows the stars that are going to be in it, and you want to play up their character and their shapes, and that's I think that's why it's great not to stick to a specific time period, because some people just really can rock the 1940s, and some people can really rock that Renaissance look. Not everyone.
And bringing it all together, you just got a truly beautiful film. Though I will say there was a little bit of controversy around the film. as the internet likes to do. They got angry, saying that Lily James's waist was digitally altered for the film.
Yeah, I heard this whole controversy, and it's funny that frame is really coming back into play. Like, people are trying to get that tiny waist and training themselves and stuff like that. And so I really don't understand why there was such a hoopla over it when everybody's trying to get that right now.
I think what people don't realize is that, well, one, Lily James is a tiny, tiny girl to begin with. She has an itty bitty waist, but on top of it, they laced her into an amazing corset to create that silhouette. Most of us are, well, especially me, I'm a barrel. I'm like a 12-year-old boy. I'm just pretty like that. I also have like a wide rib cage. Some girls are blessed with a really tiny waist, and then sometimes to create that illusion, we wear what's an undergarment called a corset, where there's generally steel boning. We get tight laced in. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it really has to do with how you're tightened in there too. I mean, you can be tightened to a corset and it looks wrong. It just looks wrong.
Yeah, there's just like, I mean, there are some women who are known for tight lacing, and they get these absolutely beautiful waists, but the damage, if it's done improperly, you can actually hurt your internal organs.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I do a show with RuPaul's Drag Race after show, and some of the guys are doing it now in drag, and the tininess that they can get to is insane.
Yeah, actually, my friend Anthony Caney of the House of Caney is one of the designers for several of the contestants on RuPaul's Drag Race, and he actually specifically has come up with a men's corset that a lot of them wear. So
I bet he did that one last week where it was like, that was impossible. It was like my arm.
Yeah.
His waist was my arm.
If you guys ever want to go see some amazing men in corsets, go hit up the House of Caney. It's pretty impressive.
Done.
Yeah. So it's phenomenal what we can create. Now the film itself had several iconic pieces of costume outside of the blue gown. We have Cinderella, who in both the animated film and in this feature film, we see her most of the film in what we call in the animated version, the maid dress.
Yeah.
It's in the film or in the old animated show, she's very drab colors. It's kind of like ragtag. Very. But what Sandy Powell wanted to do was something a little bit different. She didn't want her to be necessarily ratty and gross, but she chose to keep her in a dress that over time kind of got distorted and destroyed and distressed. And that dress is stunning. It's absolutely beautiful in its simplicity. And you can find a lot of garments like that. It's really similar to what you would see maids wear in the Rococo period from like around the mid 1700s. There's a great painting that's up in the Versailles of a bunch of milkmaids wearing very similar garments. And it's really, really great. Now, in terms if you wanted to make that dress, what are some of the ways you would go about that?
I really liked how she did because the decaying slowly, it shows the decay of her life.
Yeah.
And then that makes that dress even more grand when she gets to that point in her life. And that's what great costuming does. It can really show an evolution of a character and a de-evolution of a character really well. So I liked that. I mean, it is iconic to see her as the traditional, Cinder maid. And I guess it would really depend on what direction the director was going with it. And that's another thing, costumers talking to their directors and feeling out that whole relationship and where how dirty and deep are we getting into how bad she was treated.
Yeah.
Because I mean that is really important in that, especially dress.
You make such a good point too about how that does show the de-evolution of our character and something for costumers, for cosplayers out there that maybe want to do this version of the costume, you might want to look into doing distressing, which is something I love, especially if I've been working on a costume and it's been giving me a lot of grief. I like to set it on fire because I can, and then I'm like, oh, post-apocalyptic princess.
You're like, I wasn't angry. I was just doing this on
This is how you do it. But some of the great things you can do, because that the maid dress specifically is a lot of natural materials, lightweight cottons, linens, things that you can actually find pretty readily available at your local Joann's and fabric shops. But if you wanted to kind of give it that rough and tough, a lot of times put something in the dryer just like dry it like on 20 different cycles. Nothing distresses like a dryer. It really does. It'll start to fade, it'll start to fray. Some of the other tricks that I love to do when I'm distressing is you can get fake dirt. Ben Nye is a company that makes fake dirt, and you can rub all different colors too. Oh my gosh, the colors they have. And it stains fabric pretty well, but it'll wash out if you wanted to do a clean version. Though if you wanted to go a little heavy, also if you wanted to make some scratches and dents, get an emery board and just kind of file down on the fabric. It kind of pulls the fibers apart. It's pretty neat little things you can do to add some pretty awesome wear and tear. I like distressing for character. I have a cosplay I'm planning on making this elegant dress and then distressing it. So I'm excited about that. and you can't ever go wrong with a lighter. Just saying. I know. Though only if it's natural fabric. I will give you guys a little tip here. If you have a synthetic fabric and you don't want to hem it, like a lightweight polyester organza, you can actually just burn the edges and it'll seal it and it won't fray and you don't have to worry about hemming it. I do that a lot with circle skirts because I hate having to hem a big circle. It's an amazing little trick. So set fire to natural fabrics, but use fire to hem unnatural fabrics. I should have done that with my Khaleesi outfit last year. It was fraying all over the place. Oh my gosh. But sometimes if you're the Queen of Dragons, I was like, well, she had a rough day. Just run into some fire. So Cinderella's maid dress, it's a beautiful homage to the original animated film, but I think they added so much more delicacy to it, and it made me really, keeping it with like natural fiber, like fabrics. It's just the way to go. Now, when you contrast that with the prince, however, things get a little bit different. So in the film, she meets the prince for the first time while she's off riding in the woods, having run away from the stepmother and her stepsisters, having suffered a very terrible loss, and the prince finds her and she meets him and he pretends, I'm not going to give away too much, but he pretends to not be who he is. And like princes do. They're shady characters, those princes. But we see him in this gorgeous green jacket with the beige pants, and you'll notice with Prince Charming's costumes, it's a very similar design all throughout. Like all his main 3 or 4 outfits, the green, the white, and the wedding at the blue, or the wedding at the end at the blue. Very similar design. Alert. I know, right? Spoiler! If you haven't seen it, I'm learning all the costumes. And what Sandy Powell used for that was she went for a very military look. And it's great because I've actually found patterns online. If you men out there want to do Prince Charming, there's some really great resources. So if you're out there sewing, you can go to the local fabric store and you can pick from Simplicity McCall's, Vogue, Butterick, or your usuals. But there's a couple companies out there, Patterns of Time, Past Patterns, Truly Victorian, and such, that do make historical based patterns. Now, these are not for the faint of heart. You do have to have some good idea of how to sew. But I've been really excited because I do want to make Prince Charming for my boyfriend. And I found that Past Patterns has a reproduction of an 1812 officer's coatee coat that would be a great basis for the main pattern of the white. Or really the green or any of them. I was like, are you doing the green? Because the green is so pretty. I know, the green is really pretty, but if I'm doing the ball, it's tough. Yeah, you're right. You're right. My boyfriend likes white for some reason. But so you can see this great drawing that you're like, oh, this is a pattern. And I've worked with Past Patterns before. They don't come with a lot of instructions. It's kind of like you have to know how to do stuff. But if you're a mid-level to experienced seamstress or you want to really go off a challenge, I'd really recommend this. And now, of course, the prince, it doesn't just end there. You got to get the undershirt and a couple of other things. So they have a few pieces there. So they have a great men's undershirt, 1700s, so the first half of the 1800s. Beauty about men's clothing, it doesn't change a whole lot. There's about 300 years of men's clothing that's the same. Yeah. And they also did a single-breasted waistcoat from the same company. It's from the similar time period of the late 1700s. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with the prince that, it is all single-breasted. It's not the double-breasted look, which you'll find more common with military coats and such. And it looks really good. It looks super good. Now, fabric-wise, sorry guys, it's going to suck if you live in a warm climate.
And if you're allergic to wool in general.
Yeah, because his coat and pants are made out of wool. You can usually go with like a nice lightweight cotton or a satin for the shirt. Your doublet, not your doublet, your vest would probably be like a brocade or something fancy. But there are some options for wool, because wool, being a natural fabric, tends to also be on like the $24 a yard side.
Yeah,
it's pricey. Cosplay is not a cheap hobby. You can look into synthetics, and actually Joann's, which I'm trying to source like stuff from Joann's, because not everyone has the garment district like we have.
That's true, but Joann's is a good place. I happen to be allergic to wool, so when I have to make, like, I like the kilts and I like all that stuff. I'm very into the Scottish culture, so I do use a lot of the fake like synthetic wool, because it's not good.
It's
to have hives with your costume.
Oh God, that sounds. Unless your character called for that. I don't know if you.
You know what? I might need to plan it into my character from now on.
Oh,
she has hives.
I think she's having an allergic reaction. Oh no, that's just part of her costume.
Which is something that you have to take into account. That there are some common allergies that you can have and you're gonna have to go out there and get some synthetic fabrics every once in a while.
No, it's true, and they do, and they'll also run a little bit cheaper. Because that's one of the things, and I think
look a little cheaper sometimes.
Sometimes they do, though. But cheap wool looks really cheap. Oh my God! Don't ever use felt for wool. That is not the same.
No.
Like like the crafter's felt. No, we don't want that.
Can you imagine a whole costume in crafter's felt? Please, somebody make this.
Well, you're scared. Well,
it is. Because I wanted the bright yellow.
I think it's perfect. You can do it.
You can do it.
And I guess it's that's one thing about cosplay, is that it can be as inexpensive or expensive as you want.
True. The only reason I used crafter's felt for my skirt is because I wanted the brightest flippin' yellow ever.
Poodle skirts tend to be like a nice big felt, and you can get it like really wide.
Yeah.
But yeah, for like this princess costume, there's a lot going on there, and it's great too, because even with the pants, you could go with something with a little bit of a stretch in it. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about trying to make fitted pants. And in the jackets, you can definitely do synthetic. And a lot of people, would probably be intimidated by the appliques that they see. Something I found that I really love is I'll go find lace, like really nice lace fabric, or order lace appliques and just put it on. I have an embroidery machine that I never use. I just tend to buy stuff that I cut.
To invest in that.
When I figure out how to use mine, maybe I'll care. But right now, I'm like, I'll just find something that's close enough. I'm the queen of close enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love, and I love all the little details from like the garland on his jacket that's repeated in his collar, and also in the back where the tails meet. It's just
gorgeous.
Stunning little things. So that's how I would do the princess costume. I don't want to exclude men, so I'm going to do what I can to help you guys make things too. Or women who like to dress up like men, or vice versa.
True, very true.
Cosplay is a very popular thing in the anime.
Gender swap is awesome.
Swap. Yeah. Hey, you can do female charming.
I could.
And I could do the king. I would be the biggest jerk. No, I'd be the duke, so I could be the biggest jerk.
There you go.
Now, heading over to one of the other more prominent costumes was Helena Bonham Carter embodying the Fairy Godmother. She's kind of what I would think of as the Fairy Godmother. She is. I want her to be mine. And
I'm really glad to see her in a different silhouette. I really, she's gorgeous in her Tim Burton-esque, creepy, jagged lines. But this is also very stunning. Amazing on her.
She's a phenomenal character actor, and I don't think people associate Helena Bonham Carter as a character actor, but she definitely that's what she is, and she really outside of this costume, she brought to life this kooky, weird, if I was like a Cinder maid waiting for some magical, not even believing in magic, and this woman popped up, she would at least make me believe with the way she was, because I wouldn't expect my fairy godmother to be the sweet, beautiful blue fairy. No, she'd be a kooky old maid who I'd be like, what have I just gotten myself into?
So true.
I think she's been hitting the nectar too much.
But that outfit is amazing. Yeah. And I'm so happy to see her in this I mean, it shows her character. I'm not going to say it's not kooky. It's not grand. It is, but it's
both.
so different than what we usually see her in, and I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, no, and it's a beautiful and this is very much a Rococo Marie Antoinette era piece. And one of the cool things that I actually brought, this is for later, but I do want to show Simplicity. They have a pattern. It's pattern number 4092, and this was actually used when I wanted to do an Elizabeth Swann costume from Pirates. Yeah. But it's a really good tame Marie Antoinette pattern, though the company does make a better, more accurate one. But this is a really great basis that if you wanted to start for your Fairy Godmother costume, you can get this because it has a lot of the similar style lines that you're going to see.
And it's amazing how they mix time periods with the hair being very 1940s pin-up.
The Elizabethan collar in the back.
It's really a gorgeous piece.
It really is. And fabric-wise, this is one of, much like Cinderella's blue gown, there's a lot going on in this fabric. It actually, in person, it reads silver. It's not a blue fairy. This is, a lot of the costumes in Cinderella were actually tinted in post. That's where your digital alteration comes in.
Interesting.
So the dress itself is very white silver with like some blue overlays. And the top layer is this really interesting fibrous synthetic material that Joann's right now has something very, very, very similar.
Oh, I think I got it in gold for Daenerys.
I actually have it in blue for my Elsa cape. And it's a really neat material that it's very difficult to sew with because the fibers just want to pull apart.
Oh, they do.
But if you back it with a sheer fabric, you'll really be able to overlay it. And I think it's about $9 to $12 a yard. Don't quote me, but you can get they have some 50% off coupons coming up soon.
Yeah, keep on those coupons, you guys.
Dude, sign up. And Joann's also takes competitors' coupons. It's a really great basis if you are looking for a more screen accurate fabric. And I would definitely, stick with like a polyester satin brocade or not brocade.
The side of her like bodice is brocade, right?
Yeah, it is.
Correct?
Definitely definitely a brocade. So you can get a polyester, or you could go and be fancy and get silk,
Yeah.
But this costume, I really feel you could make with what you find at Joann's. And one of the great things, especially Simplicity does, is every year on Halloween they'll come out a couple months before whatever the big movies are from that year. They'll come out with patterns and similar fabrics.
True, and also a lot of times your patterns at Joann's are like 40% off from Simplicity this week, and next week it's McCall's, and it's good.
Yeah, it's good when they have their $1.99 pattern sale.
Whew.
Yeah. So and you can also see there's some iridescent fabric in that. We might see some of that iridescent fabric over here too. It's a polyester crystal fabric. I found this in LA's Fashion District. I've not had any luck sourcing this in any of the regular shops, but it's a fancy fabric. That's a pain in the butt to sew with because it doesn't sew. It literally just rips apart. So I was like lighting it on fire and hand weaving fabric together.
Sometimes I just love hand sewing because it just gets so you can just get so personal with it, and it's not ripping apart and stuff like that. I love, if I can hand sew it, I would rather hand sew it.
Yeah, no, there's so much hand sewing going on in my near future. Other little details too where they brought in with the fairies, the little wings on the back of her.
So cute.
Aren't they so precious? Like I'm really glad they didn't do a literal interpretation of
like huge fairy wings. Yeah, it is very cute to have little wings. And we've seen it so many times. We've seen so many versions of it. So I like that she took liberties like this.
I think of all the costumes, this deviates the most from the original film.
Absolutely.
And I think for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably my favorite costume in the film.
She's like one of my favorites anyway.
Yeah, she's just like
it's Helena.
So it's there's a lot going on there, and I would definitely say those of you at home wanting to make it, start sourcing your patterns now, because you're going to want to pull from Rococo era, you're going to want to pull from Tudor period for the neck piece, and then just go crazy with all your skirts because there's a lot of flounce. tulle will be your best friend.
It will, because you're going to have a lot of filler time.
Yeah, and tulle or crinoline, which is the thicker, slightly nicer form of tulle, it's a lot more stiff, is used a lot in making petticoats. And if you really want to be able to get that sheer material to stand out, I would definitely go with like a more crinoline-based fabric, which you can. I generally, again, don't see that at the box shops, as I call them.
No,
but
you'd probably have to go to your fashion district wherever that is for you.
Or fabric.com is a really good resource. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's Helena being amazing.
Also, if you want a specific like brocade fabric or something like that, you can go to Spoonflower and kind of like screenshot and do stuff like that. And if you have a really good person that can do digital manipulation for you.
Yeah, Spoonflower and there's another one, Fabric on Demand.
That's right.
Are printing sites that you can get custom printed fabric, and they'll do different types of cottons.
They do satin now.
Spandex. I did that once.
So it's really good if you're a stickler cosplayer or costumer. It's really good to do that, because some people are really like, that's not the pattern.
Yeah,
this is a way to do it.
I a couple years ago, I entered a contest called the World Cosplay Summit, and I did Queen Esther from Trinity Blood. And I'm sorry I don't have a photo of this because I didn't know I'd be talking about this. I actually found a company in India because I needed 20 yards of fabric that did a custom woven satin brocade.
That's awesome.
So yeah, for as much as
the internet, yay.
Yeah, the internet, yay. But as much as I paid for that stupid costume, I could have taken myself to Japan.
Next time, just take yourself to Japan.
Just don't why compete. Just go to Japan instead. That's my
both.
story. But congratulations to Katie and Diana, who did win WCS, because they were amazing. Anyways, no, really they are. I'm glad they won because they're beautiful. See, that's also another thing about cosplay is we can actually celebrate our friends, just so everyone knows. Like, it's really important. Camaraderie and love.
Because everybody puts so much into making these costumes. So much.
It's compliment people.
You can't hate on them for being so
like
skilled.
These three.
Oh, no.
I know, as fabulous as they are, but they are mean. They're the evil, the wicked stepsisters and stepmother for a reason.
Stepmother's hat. Work,
I know.
girl. Work.
So we have Cate Blanchett playing the wicked stepmother, and Sophie McShera as Drizella, who is also from Downton Abbey.
That's right.
She plays one of the kitchen maids to Lily James, who is also in Downton Abbey. And then Anastasia is played by Holiday Granger. And they probably stole the film, let's just be honest.
And that's because they're just such dynamic characters. Yeah. But also their look is amazing.
I know. So every time you saw Anastasia and Drizella on screen, they were matched as twins are, but in opposite colors, and so bright, so loud. And Sandy Powell's thought process behind that was that she wanted to make a cacophony of fabric to make you know, when you see them on screen, to immediately be turned off and immediately put off by these characters.
Yeah, and it is quite creepy to see two people in the exact same outfit, just different colors.
It's like the Shining twins on crack.
It really is.
It's so, I mean,
put them at the end of the hallway.
And if you notice, like their costumes really ran the gamut of time period, because you saw, you know, in the previous photo, it was very, you know, like not necessarily Regency, but like a little bit like, you know, walking period stuff. But then you see them in like knitted sweaters with flowers, and you know, they just they were all over the place with their costumes. Yeah,
and actually the stepmother's hat is almost very, I want to say 1930s.
Well, pretty much everything for Cate Blanchett's stepmother was inspired by like the Hollywood glamour of the 40s and 50s. Yeah. And if we go to her ball gown in the next image, it's just, I mean,
gorgeous.
That is a couture gown. I would wear that on the runway today.
Oh, and does she have feathers in her hair?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Gorgeous look. Like I would wear that like
right now.
Yeah, right
just
now.
Put it on.
I would just do that.
I mean, this is something that obviously takes you out of the time period, especially when you see it in the ball. But it sets her, you know, this is again a great thought on the designer's part, where she just wanted to create a character that was so different and stood out.
And it's so femme fatale. It's so old Hollywood glamour. So so it really goes with her character.
Yeah.
You know, I like going and I don't mind going out of the time period again.
Yeah.
For those lines.
Yeah, this is a fantasy film.
Yeah.
This isn't a historical biography on
Right.
Princess Cinderella. This is, you know, when I want a fantasy film, I want fantastical costumes.
Truth.
And I think there's something to be said about this. And one of the things I really liked that
Who's the colors?
I know how the colors pop. Well, the sisters look like, I mean, that in that scene they look like they were vomited on by like a bubblegum factory.
It's so true.
And I think it might have been what she was going for.
I think that I think that's exactly what she was going for.
And just like with Kate coming down, and I noticed a common thing with her outfits, with the stepmother's outfits, is she had a lot of wraps. She'd have like very A-line style dresses with big wraps that kind of added, flounce and flow and grandeur to her outfits. And I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah.
Because it's not something I've actually ever seen really done in a lot of fashion design outside of a couple like indie designer friends that I know. And I really, it's just something I really appreciated. And again, for those of you wanting to recreate this at home, these are really bold colors and very simple like blocked fabrics that you won't have a lot of time stressing to find. Like you can go, if all you have at your resources are Joann's Casa collection, which tends to be like, in which I hadn't been to a Joann's in months, and I stopped at one in Glendale, and I was so excited to see how much their Casa collection has grown. They have satin, like a lining fabric that matches. They have a taffeta.
Yeah, and they have a lot of sales on stuff like that, and that's when you're like, you if you frequent them, that's when you can bulk up.
You can get it down for like $3.99 a yard, and the one thing I really like about the Casa collection is that they have about 15-ish colorways, and they'll have 7 to 10 different fabrics in those colors, so you can, if you need to match everything, it's a really ingenious thing that they've done.
I don't know why they didn't think of it before.
I know, right? It's good, but yeah, you can totally get away. I would use a lot. I would kind of stick with like satins and taffetas if I were to recreate this gown, because it's just the volume. There's something we talk about in fashion design, the drape of a fabric, how a fabric will lie and drape is its feel. So like if it has a light drape, it'll just kind of wisp away. If it has a heavy drape as this, it'll add some weight to it. So I think the drapes of these fabrics.
But with the girls, you're gonna have to go and get that printed.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get creative. And another thing that we touched on earlier with Lily James specifically, but the undergarments, the structures that build these costumes.
I would just totally wear that out.
I know, right? Like, let's just go to the catnip club.
I'm okay with that.
So
we're done.
Yeah, we're perfect, and we're bright colored and happy.
Exactly.
So here we have Ella in her maid dress with the sisters as they're getting ready for the ball, and this is a really great showcase of one, the level of detail they put into the undergarments of these costumes, two, how much fun they have, because these are definitely not historically accurate. I've never seen a cage skirt that's made up of a bunch of wire circles.
But it's gorgeous,
and I would wear that.
It's decorative and amazing.
It's so many layers, and you see they have the chemise, the corset, a little bit of flounce there on Drusella's or Anastasia's. It's hard to see who's who from here. And just like one of my favorite things when I'm making, especially like a big gown, is I like all the little details. I love to make a nice corset. Sometimes the stuff you never see are the things that are probably the best made. And this is just something where I feel like Sandy and her team went to town, and they're like, we want to have fun with this. And I think that's something important for you guys at home that are wanting to create, things. Knowing the foundation garments help. Like having a corset not only will help shape your body, but it'll add structure to the outer dress.
And it'll help you walk in the way that you need to walk in that costume. And I think that's why it's so important to get down to those details, because it really helps the actors to get into that character.
It really does. Yeah, you could speak on that with authority.
It's really great as an actor to have this costume that is just like, yep, now I am this person, Yeah. And I think she did an amazing job from head to toe to undergarment.
Undergarment to outer garment. Now, so we can't talk about Cinderella without talking about the
impossible waist.
The impossible waist and the most iconic gown that defines both the animation and the film. And I have a little something that I keep referencing. A little bit of things. I'm just making sure my producer is ready for me. That I started 2 days ago.
Wow.
I've decided that I wanted to take a crack at making Cinderella's blue ball gown. And I started yesterday afternoon to make some things. So you can see the skirt that I started. It's multiple layers. What I have at the base is a crinoline, a cage skirt. I actually cheated. While I have a really nice hoop skirt that I made at home, this one wasn't big enough. It was only 8 feet in diameter. I needed something bigger. So I went down to the fashion district in Los Angeles and found an actual metal bone hoop skirt, 12 feet in diameter for $27. Yeah.
What?
The fabric is crap and it's falling apart, if you can see, but I can fix that. But the thing is that this gave me the foundation for that skirt, because the thing with Lily James and the whole entire outfit is layers upon layers and foundation upon foundation to get that amazing skirt. So you need to start with something big, and I found it for $27. Alternately, I found on eBay you can get the same skirt for $33 free shipping.
So there you go.
Yeah.
You have your and it's funny, in certain areas it's easier to get hoop skirts. It just really is. Even in the South, I got a hoop skirt for like so cheap.
Yeah, well, especially in the South, all the reenactments.
Yeah.
Now, all right, so here we have Lily James, Sandy Powell's like piece de resistance, the iconic blue ball gown, over 270 yards of fabric, 10,000 Swarovski crystals put into this gown. The very top layer, it's a very, very sheer fabric called silk crepeline. And you're not going to find that at your local fabric store. You're not going to find that in your local fashion district. It's actually used in repairing old quilts and vintage clothing. It's super thin, super lightweight, pure silk that was hand dyed for this dress. And the cheapest I've been able to find it online is 150 pounds a meter. So about 200 a yard. Yeah. So I did not use that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I did not. I found something that's a lot more opaque. But this is a polyester chiffon. I was able to bargain at the beauty of the fashion district is you can haggle.
Yes.
I got this for $250 a yard, and it's a beautiful Cindy blue, as my boyfriend keeps referring to it. And this is what is the top layer of my skirt. That we saw in that video. Thank you. And I love it. I'm so happy with it. It has a beautiful flow. There is 15 yards of fabric gathered into this skirt. Wow. And one of the great things too, guys, at home, if you're wanting to make this, just buy it by the yardage, and then you don't have to cut. It's not like one of those skirts where it's like, oh, I need to cut panels and sew it together. No, there's only one seam in the back, and I gathered
once you get up there.
Yeah, once you get up there. Now the other thing about the dress itself is all the iridescence and the sparkles. I actually was able to see the dress in person. They had it at the El Capitan. It was amazing. And even then I wasn't prepared for when I was going to go make it myself. But I did notice they had a couple layers of what they used was like a organza, and I found a similar cheaper organza again at the fashion district that I was able to layer in. Bear with me. It fell. Oh God, this dress has been the death of me. So again, we go back to the I actually kind of cheated. So I made this skirt twice. I made it the first time and I didn't like it, and I scrapped it because everything, while it was accurate to the film, while it was accurate to the actual costume, it wasn't accurate to the film. And I realized something in this process of making this costume twice now, is that how much color grading they went into the film. The actual dress reads very purple and blue in certain lights, and there's definitely an iridescent quality. But to get that really bright blue, that's been changed. And as a designer, initially was like, yeah, I want to go with the more purple two-tone because I want to be like the actual costume in person. But then I realized it just didn't read well. And so
most people won't know it.
Exactly. And they'd be like, oh, she totally screwed that up. And so something I had to make, a decision I had to make as a cosplayer was, no, I want to go for a screen accurate color, maybe not accurate in design. What I was able to do is I found a really beautiful lightweight tool. This isn't the typical tool you'd get at Joann's. It's something,
a little movement
yeah,
to
it has
it.
a lot of movement. There's about 20 yards of this guy gathered into the skirt. And then that evil mermaid iridescent fabric that is accurate. You see it in the shot right there. And it reads, what's beautiful about this is when I pair it with this other really thin polyester material, which sometimes reads purple and sometimes reads periwinkle. When I pair it over this, it definitely gets a really different color quality. And what's amazing is that here in the studio in the lights, it's reading more blue. At my boyfriend's house in his loft in natural lighting, it reads purple. So I'm getting that two-tone iridescent quality that you see in the dress.
There you go.
And it's amazing.
It's amazing what lighting can do.
Yeah. So one of the things I spent the better part of yesterday doing was gathering each layer to lay on top of each other. And it's a lot of work. I kind of want to show you guys a neat trick that I found that you could do at home. This is called pleating tape. And pleating tape is also known as cartridge pleating tape. The way that the actual Cinderella dress was made was they did cartridge plates. And as a historical costumer, you'll recognize that used a lot in the Tudor area. And it literally looks almost like an accordion. You kind of just go back and forth and you have to hand pleat. It's a lot of work. It's very, very tiresome. But most drapery stores will have cartridge pleating tape. And what you do is you sew this to the wrong side of your fabric, and you can pull and pull and pull and pull, and you have beautiful measured gathers. Nice. This, however, won't work for Cinderella because you need to gather more fabric than that will do. Because the thing is the thicker the fabric, the less you're going to be able to gather into it. So that was a great idea that I had that will not work for this. But
it was a great idea.
It was a great idea, but I wanted to share that with you guys anyways. So yeah, by the way, poor Steven, he's so good. He's following all around as I jump off script because I just want to geek out about making costumes. But going back to the actual dress, as you can see here, this is the petticoat that they had. What it is had flounced frills at the hem with a second 3-layered organza petticoat placed over top. So to create a lot of the bulk at the bottom, they gathered God only knows how many yards. I'm going to estimate about 20 yards of fabric and then hand sewed it to the bottom of the petticoat that is then laid over the custom cage crinoline.
Gorgeous and so much work.
So much work. I mean, it took a team of like 20 people. There's eight people on this one, but like 20 people to make 8 gowns over the course of the film.
Those women were busy.
Yeah, they were very, very busy. Like,
I mean, it sounds like a lot of people, but these are intricate.
Yeah, that's the best sewing circle. And you can just see some of the layering in there, and it's, and at home, guys, if you, this is something you really want to make, but I'll just be very upfront. My cost for not even both costumes, like the one that I'm actually using, we're at about $450. It's not a cheap costume, but that doesn't mean it can't be done inexpensively. You can use the typical tool, like the $1.99 yard, get it 50% off tool.
It's going to be a little scratchy.
Yeah, it's just going to be a little scratchy. And it catches really easily and rips, but you can definitely add that, use that to add volume. And you could realistically make this costume for under $200. Now, in terms, I want to talk a little bit. I know we're running late. I'm just so excited. I wanted to share everything with everyone. I love costuming. So I make a lot of my own patterns. I draft them, but at home, you might not have those skills or want to or have the time. So you can actually what I call marry patterns together. So I started off with my Simplicity 4092, which is a great pattern, but you'll notice on the Cindy bodice, it actually has sleeves that kind of fall off the shoulder that help keep the Bertha, which is the detachable flouncy thing on top. So I actually found this Vogue pattern, Vogue 1095, that had very similar sleeves. So I cut my patterns together, laid them on top of each other, and traced them to create my ultimate pattern. Also, because I am like the longest torso in the world. I had to add 1.5 inches at the waist to extend it because I am all torso and no legs. I'm just like a walking torso.
And then you might have the reverse problem.
Yeah.
So you have to adjust.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really important, especially if you're going to be working with, in my case, crepe back satin, which is not an inexpensive fabric, do a mock-up. You can get muslin. It's super cheap. I tend to buy it by the bolt when it's on sale. And I just use like a really thick stitch, a basting stitch, and I sew a little mock-up to make sure it fits.
And then you can also use these later as pattern pieces.
Exactly.
That you can keep, because I shred those things.
Yeah, the paper. Yeah, and what's great is because you can also mark on the muslin while it's on you, or if you have a dress form that matches. So like I wanted to extend the hip section up, so I drew that on, cut it, and then take it apart, and you have a beautiful pattern. And this is actually what I call my hero bodice. This is what's going to be the ultimate one. I did add a little bit of metal boning here to help with the structure so it doesn't flop over. And you can get it's spring steel. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's spiral steel boning. I added in there. Spring steel boning is a straight boning. Spiral steel is curved. That's great. It's really helpful. There's some photos not there. I can kind of see where I'm not sure. I actually feel bad because I don't know what you guys are seeing on screen and what Steven's going by. So I will also make sure, by the way, for those of you listening on the iTunes, I will make sure all these images are available to download so you can see. So that's kind of it on my costume. Obviously, I'm in progress in making it. I want to debut it at Big Wow Comic Fest next weekend. So I do want to invite everyone to kind of come sew along with me. If you're interested in making Cinderella, come join us on the Cosplay Coach Facebook page, and I'll post progress pictures and fun. Yeah, and hang out on Tuesday night and do like a chat session if anyone wants to hang out. Now, some of the things too on the dress, you'll notice she's got the gathered part on the front and little butterflies.
Cutie.
I know these are definitely not accurate. These are $3.99 for a pack of a dozen butterflies that we got in the fashion district in the party section. You can find these online. They're really cheap. Something I'm going to actually go and do in at a wedding store, I found a pack of 12 butterflies. They're white. They're gorgeous. And you can paint them. And so I'm going to get an iridescent paint and then paint them myself. Gorgeous. So they'll be a little bit more accurate because the actual butterflies were hand painted by a master.
I'm sure.
Yeah. They actually found this guy in Hiroshima who did all the butterflies. I know.
Just
intricate. I know. Well, we're going to be wrapping up really soon, but I want to talk one last thing about the shoe.
Oh. Yeah. How are you going to make those?
I'm not. I am buying heels that are going to have crystals on them.
Okay.
I'm going to bling them out. But the legendary glass slipper was created with the help of Swarovski. Powell decided to use crystal instead of glass because glass would not sparkle like crystal does. 8 versions of the shoe were created, but none of them were ever worn in the film after realizing that a shoe made entirely of crystal is near impossible to walk in. So James instead actually wore leather shoes, that were digitally edited to look like the glass slipper. But that is an actual picture of the glass slipper from one of the costume exhibits, and it has the telltale butterfly. I went down to Santee Alley, which is a super cheap area in the fashion district, and I found rhinestone bling shoes for $35. And they're super fancy, and I'm going to wear them for other costumes, so I'm going to go buy them.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I'm getting the sign that it is going to be time to wrap up, but I just, there's a couple things I want to go through real quick. Cosplay challenge.
Ooh.
Yeah. Everyone at home watching, I challenge you guys. I have a 2-part challenge. Make a Cinderella gown or a costume from Cinderella. Or if you don't want to do Cinderella, we're going to take 1 month. We will reconvene on this challenge at the start of May. Okay. I want an original take on your favorite Disney character.
Ooh.
And you can tweet at the Cosplay Coach. You can email us at Popcorntalk Network. You can find us on Facebook. Show us your pictures. Send them in. We will put them to a vote in May, and there will be an amazing prize. Ooh. And if you guys have any questions along the way, I'll definitely be available to answer them. And like I said, as I'll be making Cindy in a week Ooh. To finish all this, I'll probably do like chat hangouts. So if you guys want to come and sew along with me and ask questions, we will totally do that.
That sounds like so much fun.
I'm super excited. And then, we've got some conventions coming up because you make these beautiful costumes, got to wear them somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you're in the South, MegaCon, which is my first convention, is next weekend in Orlando, Florida. We also have the Midwest Media Expo happening in Detroit, Michigan. And if you're down in Perth, go visit Oz Comic Con.
I will leave now.
I know, right? I'm on my way. And if you guys have any questions about conventions that are coming up, go to conventionscene.com or upcomingcons.com. Both of them are really great resources. That's your cosplay tip of the week to find out where you can go play dress up. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we can say Cosplay Coach is done.
Oh my God.
I know.
Whoa.
Wow.
That just happened.
That just happened. Sorry. For those of you who follow me on social media, you know this has been a huge project. Our producer, Steven, came to me a month ago and said, hey, I want you to do a cosplay show. And I was immediately overwhelmed and blessed with the opportunity to be able to share my passion. And I know this is a little rough, but I really just want to bring you guys something amazing. I want to be able to celebrate the costumes that we see in film and popular media. I want to be able to share with you. Every week I'm going to bring on different guest hosts who are, pinnacles in the cosplay scene who will share their love and experience. And I really just want to build a community where we can all have fun and dress up together.
And giggle.
Yeah. Anastasia, before we leave, do you have any closing thoughts on Cinderella?
I'm just really excited about what we saw, and the interpretations, and I just go out and see it, and I'm not sure I'm going to make a dress though.
Yeah, you might just need to join me in the Cinderella army.
Maybe I'll make that hoop skirt.
And where can I find you on the social medias?
I am at Anastasia W at Twitter, and on Instagram I'm at Anastasia Wash, and you can keep up with me on my website www.anastasiawashington.com.
She owns all the Anastasia
I do. It's all mine.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining on this first episode. If you guys are going to be in San Jose on April 18th and 19th, come say hi to me at Big Wow Comic Fest. See the dress in person. And you can find me on the internets at mplacko. And we'll be back next week with Game of Thrones, because it's coming back, so how can we not talk about the costumes? Thank you everyone for joining us for the first episode, and remember to like, subscribe, rate, find us on iTunes, find us on YouTube on Popcorntalk Network, find us all around the internet, and let us know that you love us so I can keep coming back with these amazing people. Goodbye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.